I want to welcome Ben Azadi, founder of Keto Kamp. I'm a huge fangirl of his. I have been watching his channel since I started uh, the ketogenic diet 2 years ago. On Keto Kamp, he's on a mission to educate 1 billion people on planet Earth. And I think of his channel as like the ultimate resource for intermittent fasting, the keto diet. I often send clips of yours to friends who are just getting started, and they love you and your content, and so
Thank you,
do
Sue.
I.
Thank you
So
so
I'm
much.
really happy to have you on Hopeful Tribe.
Grateful to be here. I appreciate the invite. Kudos to you for transforming your health and what you're doing in the community. So thank you for the opportunity today.
Oh, thank you. I mean, really, I was 2 years ago, for those who don't know the story, I was on the verge of a stroke. I'm pretty sure. I was exhausted and I could just feel like there was something seriously wrong with me. So thank God I went to get labs from my doctor because I've been pretty good about getting annual labs. And my doctor, like I was telling you earlier, is a friend of mine. So I got my labs, and I think my blood sugar was at 320 when
Hmm.
I got diagnosed. It was really bad. My
Wow.
A1C was at 11.7.
Mm.
And so it was pretty bad. And I had a whole team um, at my healthcare facility that was in charge of helping me. And none of them suggested the keto diet. They just gave me medications and said they'd be in touch. And I went online and did a literature review because I'm kind of a geek. And I found out that keto and intermittent fasting were having really good results with people with diabetes. So I was like, okay, I need to do that, but how? And that's how I found you. I did a YouTube search, and you taught me how to implement keto and intermittent fasting into my life.
That's so cool, Sue. Congratulations to you. And you're right, keto, fasting. There's been so many people who have reversed these conditions that we have been led to believe are chronic progressive diseases that we can't reverse. But the body's amazing and you could do it. And the body has this innate intelligence that is eager to work for us. So you're a perfect example of that. And I'm grateful if I played any role in that. I'm grateful for that.
Mm. Well, I expected for it to work for diabetes because the literature supported that, right? But what I didn't know, expected it to work for the diabetes. What I didn't expect was that my high blood pressure that I'd had since I was 17 would go away,
Mm.
that my high cholesterol, which had been a problem for about 10 years, would go away, that I would lose 60 pounds, and that my mood would improve. Like, I didn't expect any of those other things. Those were just bonuses. I was just trying to get rid of diabetes.
Oh, it's amazing. You got healthy. And as a side effect, you got all those amazing results. That's what happens when you start to get healthy. So that's awesome. I love to hear that, Sue. Congrats to you.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. I really am so grateful to you and to others like you who are willing to put all this time and energy into educating people.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Tell me what inspired you to found Keto Camp?
So Keto Camp was a rebrand from my previous company called Shred Fat. That was the name of my previous company.
Ah,
I started that company when I went through my own health transformation of losing 80 pounds back in 2008. And then I launched Shred Fat 2012. So I had that for several years. But then 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, I wanted to rebrand. I hired a marketing coach. He recommended I rebrand and kind of get away from Shred Fat. So we were trying to think about, all right, what can we create? He asked me what I love to teach. I love teaching keto. I love teaching fasting. So that's where Keto Camp spawned. And of course, it's camp with a K, KK. So it kind of plays off the tongue well. So it was a little over 3 years ago that we rebranded that and then just created all these new
ah,
channels and just went all in.
that's so cool. So you lost 80 pounds. That's amazing.
Yeah, I
And
did.
Did you do it primarily using intermittent fasting and keto?
I didn't. So that was back in 2008 before I even discovered keto and fasting. It wasn't until 2013 that I discovered keto and fasting. So I lost the weight, but it was an important lesson for me because I was one of those fit people who was still kind of sick. I was not necessarily
Mm.
healthy. So I was trying to discover what true health was. And it wasn't until I discovered keto and fasting that I really started to experience true health at the cellular level. And that was in 2013.
Mm. And now, how did you discover it?
I was actually transitioning away from a vegan diet. I was a vegan for a year and a half. I know, crazy. I was very extreme and dogmatic about it, which was a lesson learned now. So it stopped working for me, the vegan diet, after a few months, but I stuck with it for a year and a half. And I determined that this is not working for me. Lab work verified it. So I wanted to discover a different approach. So like you, I was on YouTube University. I was on Dr. Google. I was looking for other avenues for health. And I came across like Dr. Mercola's work, Dave Asprey's work, Dr. Pompa, who's now my mentor, different people, Jimmy Moore, Paul Chek, others that were talking about ketosis, this ancient healing strategy called keto, and how our ancestors all did keto, our ancestors all practiced intermittent fasting, and it could be a really powerful way to reduce inflammation in your body. And it made a lot of sense to me. So I decided to go all in with it, and it really helped transform my health and reduce inflammation. So I was now a fit person who was healthy, not just a fit, sick people. And ever since then, I've learned a lot of different things and nuances with keto. So I love it. I think it's a very powerful tool. Both keto and fasting are great, powerful tools.
Right? I mean, just amazing. I I feel like a lot of people stay away from keto. I know I guess I hadn't heard about keto before my diagnosis, but I had heard about low carb diets, and I stayed away from them in my weight loss journeys because I felt like it was too extreme, you know? It was too big a departure from the standard American diet for me. It scared me, you know?
I understand. Yeah.
Uh, and I'm hoping that through this interview and people watching more of your videos that they'll realize that it's actually not that difficult to implement into your life.
It's not. It's delicious. I mean, eat more healthy fat and protein. I mean, beef and eggs but a lot of
Bacon.
people and what?
Bacon.
And bacon could be allowed too. But a lot of people do think that keto is about eating a whole bunch of fat and bacon and cheese. And yeah, that could
Yeah.
be part of it, but it's really about dropping your carbohydrates low enough and letting your body tap into your body fat. That's the goal. And that's what keto could do for you. Ketosis is such a great tool for reducing inflammation. You know, I look at keto not as a diet, but as a metabolic process that has been around since humans have existed. We need to tap in to this metabolic process because in this day and age, we have a keto deficiency with the standard American diet.
Mhm. Seriously. And I feel like the mood problems and the cognitive problems that a lot of people are having could be really improved by the keto diet too. Have you had any experience with that?
Absolutely, because if you're not doing keto and you're eating a standard American diet, which is about 300 to 400 grams of carbs per day, it's a lot. What's going to happen is you're going to get a big glucose spike when you're eating meals and snacking throughout the day. And then insulin will come and take that glucose, put it into your cells. And then all of a sudden that glucose crashes. With that crash goes your energy, your focus, your willpower reserves, if you will. And then your brain's just going to panic saying, get more glucose, get more sugar. So then you're just on this roller coaster. Your mood is going to be sporadic. That's why they call it hangry, like those Snickers commercials. You're not yourself when you're not eating. You know, here's a Snickers bar. That's because you're a sugar burner. We don't want to eat a Snickers bar. We want to get fat adapted. So that's what happens. But when you do keto and now you're keeping your glucose and insulin stable because fat does not even raise the dial or touch the dial on insulin and glucose, you're going to have more stable energy levels. Now the brain is going to be using ketones for energy. So you have more focus, more clarity. You're just more resilient when you're in ketosis mentally for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, and I felt like my anxiety level went way down when I started doing keto. I was really shocked because I have suffered from post traumatic stress disorder since I was a kid. And so I just thought the level of anxiety I was used to on a daily basis was just my baseline. That was what I
Wow,
was going to have to live with for the rest of my life. But I felt like the uh, keto diet really brought that way down.
it's awesome. I've seen that a lot. I've seen it a lot. When you can control those glucose spikes, you're going to control, you're going to make better decisions. It's going to help with anxiety. Now, that's not the only thing you do. There's other things, but that could play a big difference in making this transition.
Right. And it's one of the easier things you can do, right?
Yeah.
Because all of the mental health and the spiritual work I've done is a lot harder than keeping my macros keto, you know?
Totally. Yeah. This is low hanging keto fruit right here. We're talking about low hanging keto fruit.
Exactly. Exactly. And so part of why I reached out to you when I did too is because I started this new YouTube channel about 6 months ago. And because of that, I was sitting a lot more than I used to,
Hmm.
sitting hours editing videos. And then I was flexing my keto a little more often than I should have. I had
Got it.
already, once I stabilized my weight and stuff, I started uh, letting myself have one flex day a week, right?
Mhm.
Where I could have, higher carb stuff and just kind of enjoy a meal out with friends or whatever. And then and then I noticed in the last 6 months I started going, oh well, how about 2 days a week? And how about, oh, we'll make an exception for this or whatever. And at the same time, not moving enough. So I ended up regaining some of the weight that I lost.
Mm.
And I was like, oh man, I need some inspiration to get back on to my healthier habits and to stay in ketosis more often than not. And
Yeah.
so I thought I'm going to reach out to Ben and I'm going to ask him for some guidance as I recommit myself to keto.
Yeah, absolutely. I always tell people to get clear on your why, and reasons come before results. Our friend Sean Cannell talks about that all the time.
Yeah.
Shout out to Sean and Think Media and Heather. So get clear on your why, keep your why in front of you, and then create some small wins each day. So if you did 4 flex days last week, then this week do 3, right? And then in the following week do 2. So just gradually build up, and just remind yourself of how good you felt when you were doing this more discipline. Just remind yourself how, and then once you start doing it again, you're going to experience how good you feel. And that feeling of mental clarity, amazing energy, getting results with your health, it should outweigh that temporary satisfaction of like a high carbohydrate feast meal. So just get clear on that and get that why in front of you is what I would recommend. And then of course, one more thing is make sure your foundations are strong, your health foundations, so your sleep is good, and you're really mastering your stress and doing some more movement. So getting walks, getting more steps in. So stress, sleep, and movement are going to be foundational as well.
Stress. What was the other one in the middle?
Sleep and movement.
Stress, sleep, and movement. Okay, I'm taking notes here.
Love it.
I need all the help I can get, Ben.
I love it. If you think it, you got to ink it. I love the notes.
Exactly. And one of the things I've learned from I've actually started this weight loss journey 12 years ago. Um I think it was 12 years, yeah. And what I've learned through this change process is that change is rarely linear. You know,
Mm,
I have been up and down on the scale. And um, what I'm hoping to do by the end of this year is to actually get to my goal weight from 12 years ago. I never got there.
mm,
I came closest a year ago. I was only 9 pounds from my goal weight, but then the pandemic and then now the YouTube channel, and I've like ended up pushing myself over 20 pounds from my goal weight. So what I'm hoping to do is to rededicate myself, like you said, get really clear on why and take exquisite care of my health in general and get there. Just get to that goal weight already and maintain it because it's been a long road.
You got this. You could do that, and you could do it fairly soon. So yeah, recommit. A lot of people, they are interested in accomplishing that goal, but we want to be committed. There's a big difference between being interested and being committed. So I love that you said you're recommitting, not reinteresting yourself. So good selection of words there.
Yeah. I was even thinking about doing an episode every couple weeks to update people on my progress, because
Yeah,
I
accountability.
feel like, yeah, that'll really hold me accountable if I make my weight loss journey public,
I think you should do it. I love that idea, and you'll inspire other people as well.
Hopefully, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we could all, I think after this pandemic, used to lose 20 pounds.
The COVID-20.
Yeah, at least most of us put on 20 pounds. So maybe people can join me and we can all lose that 20 together, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I love that idea.
Yeah, I think so too. What do you think are the biggest myths about keto? And then after that, intermittent fasting.
The biggest myths about keto is that one keto approach is the same as another keto approach. So whenever you see or hear about somebody say, oh, studies show the ketogenic diet is going to cause disease or cause inflammation, that word ketogenic diet there could be 100 different variations of a ketogenic diet. They're not all the same. So I always like to look at the study. Were they eating inflammatory fats or were they eating clean fats? And it's always inflammatory fats. So people don't understand that just because you're in ketosis doesn't mean you're getting healthy. If you're eating inflammatory fats like vegetable oils, industrial seed oils, and a lot of artificial sweeteners, yeah, you might be in ketosis and you might be doing a keto diet, but you're not going to get the results you want. So that's one myth right there. Not all keto approaches are the same. When I refer to keto, I'm referring to clean keto and focusing on reducing inflammation so your body could heal itself. So that's a big myth that I want to debunk every time we talk about keto. And then
Yeah.
for fasting
Oh yeah, right before intermittent fasting myths, I was going to say one of the changes I made in preparation for this new reset that I'm doing is I said, okay, Sue, when you have a flex day, you can have more carbs, but you can't have any bad fats. It's got to be all good fats, and have a sweet potato if you want, but like no junk from
smart.
outside.
Smart, because if you have more carbs, even if it's like sugar and ice cream, which I'm not recommending, but if you had sugar and ice cream, at least your body could burn off that excess sugar. It cannot burn off these bad fats. They end up inflaming your cells for weeks to months. So that's a smart decision right there. That's a really, really wise choice that you did.
Yeah. So how about the myths for intermittent fasting?
Oh, they're even more for fasting. There's so many myths out there. You're going to go into starvation mode. You're going to slow down your metabolism. You're going to, wreck your hormones. So let's talk about the metabolism. The metabolism technically doesn't even work in speeds. It works in efficient or inefficient. So an efficient metabolism means you're metabolically flexible, which what keto and fasting can do. But there was a study to really debunk the myth that the fasting will slow down your metabolism. There was a study that showed after 4 consecutive days of fasting, the metabolism, so the metabolic rate, increased by 13%. So it was 13% more efficient. Wow. It was the complete opposite of what people say will happen when you don't eat food. And it makes sense. We eat food. We store that food as energy, as body fat. We don't eat food. We burn that excess energy. Why would the body wreck its metabolism when you're doing intermittent fasting. Now, of course, if you do excessive fasting and you're in constant in a caloric, not in a caloric surplus, but a caloric, what's the word I'm looking for? Deficit. Thank you. If you're in a caloric deficit, you will eventually slow down metabolism. But if you're just doing intermittent fasting and you're eating enough, you'll see an improvement with the metabolism. So that's number one. Another myth is you're going to eat away at muscle. The body's not stupid. We don't store food in the form of body fat, and then when the chips are down, we burn muscle. We burn the body fat first. So it's not going to happen when you have excess body fat. So those are just a couple myths and there's several more about fasting.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I think I get more objections from friends and family about the intermittent fasting than I do about keto. And I'm like,
I believe it.
I think that's so funny. But one of my favorite family members has actually joined me on keto and intermittent fasting.
Cool.
And for her, intermittent fasting is easier than keto because she's kind of an ice cream addict. So she can't really give up sugar. But I mean, I tried, uh, getting her to try some keto ice cream. It just doesn't do
Didn't
it
happen.
for her. No, she can't do it. So she's been doing intermittent fasting pretty regularly and finds it easier. But most people, they're like, I can't go more than 30 minutes without eating.
I know. It's crazy. That's a sign that the metabolism is broken. It's a big sign.
Right? If you're hungry that often, either your metabolism's broken or you have like serious mental health issues that need addressing, because I have had bouts of binge eating, and it's usually when something's really bothering me. And I'll just find myself in the kitchen in the middle of the night eating like mindlessly, and it's like, oh my god, what's wrong with me, and it's usually something pretty serious is going on that I haven't wanted to acknowledge.
I've been there. Mental emotional stress has got me to that point in the past. I've been there.
Oh yeah, it's so easy, right? And I gave up all illegal drugs and alcohol when I was 22, and so food really has been my only option for a long time, like as far as like an unhealthy coping skill.
Yeah.
So not food, but overeating, like binge eating or eating too much.
Well, there's a lot of energy in addiction. So you transferred the energy from drugs to food, right? So ideally we want to transfer that energy to something more productive for us.
Right. Something healthier, perhaps.
Yeah.
But it's been a journey. Actually, I didn't go straight to food. I went from drugs and alcohol to codependent relationships, and then to food. So.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people could relate to that. So the transference of energy. So let's transfer that energy into something that is productive and healthy and good for the world, good for yourself, which you have done. So I acknowledge you for that.
Yeah. I just, I'm just being really honest with people that I'm not living like this perfect healthy lifestyle. I have issues myself.
Yeah, most people do.
And they used to be much worse.
Yeah. Look, if I did everything I teach, I would be much healthier than I am right now. Even myself, I know a lot of things, but I don't do everything. We're not perfect. We just want to get better. That's the goal.
Exactly. Progress, not perfection.
Exactly. Yep.
You've talked in some of your videos about how keto needs to be practiced differently by women. And I was wondering if you wanted to share a little bit about that.
Yes, women have, of course, different fluctuations of hormones than men. So, for example, a menstruating woman, a woman who has a monthly cycle, a period, she has about a 28-day hormonal cycle. A man has a 24-hour hormonal cycle. So men kind of replenish in a 24 hours. Women are 28 days. So my colleague, Dr. Stephanie Estima, compares men's hormones to the sun, 24 hours, women's hormones to the moon, 28 days, especially when I'm talking about cycling women. So we need to consider what's happening with those fluctuations in hormones. So men could be more aggressive with doing more keto, more fasting. They could get away with it. They're going to get more faster results as well. Women need to be more cautious, especially menstruating women. So for example, in my book, Keto Flex, chapter 12, I talk about this. The week before your monthly cycle is the week we don't want to do much keto and a lot of fasting, because you want to build two hormones, progesterone and estrogen, which is going to help with that monthly cycle. If you do too much keto and too much fasting, you deplete progesterone, and it will lead to more cravings for chocolate and carbohydrates. That's why a lot of women get those cravings before their period. It's the innate intelligence telling them, well, you actually need these healthy carbs to make these hormonal conversions. Once the period hits, then you could go right back to keto, right back to fasting. So that's a consideration. And if you're postmenopausal, you could do a little bit more fasting and keto than somebody who's menstruating, but you still want to flex, get a day out of ketosis and not do fasting, just to mix things up and make hormonal conversions. So those are just a couple of examples for you.
Cool. Thank you. I actually didn't know that last part. I thought that for us postmenopausal women that it didn't really matter about the flexing, but you know that it actually does, huh?
Yeah, because your thyroid has it produces T4, which is the inactive form of thyroid. It needs to be converted to T3, and then your body uses T3. When you have a flex day, it helps make that conversion. But when you do too much keto and you're not flexing enough, like long-term ketosis, that conversion is compromised. So the flex day helps with that conversion.
So how often would you say a postmenopausal woman needs to have a flex day?
If you're at your goal weight and you have no underlying conditions like insulin resistance or diabetes, then once a week would be good. If you still have like more than 10 pounds to lose, then maybe once every other week or once a month.
Ah, thank you. Thank you writing that because I really want to get to that goal weight. That's awesome.
But the way that I teach it, Sue, is if you're new to keto, which you're not, but if somebody's new to keto, they don't practice these flexing methods. Even the menstruating women, they do 8 to 12 weeks of strict ketosis first to get keto adapted, and then you start doing the flexing approach.
Right. I think I went pretty strict, except for maybe holidays my first year.
Oh, yeah. So you flexed around the holidays?
Yeah. I just flexed on the holidays. I call my birthday a holiday too. So I wouldn't feel so deprived and like left out of all the festivities. I flexed on the holidays. But the second year, when I was pretty close to my goal weight, I was like, oh, I'm going to do it once a week. And like I said, that worked fine until this last 6 months. So I need to be a little more strict until I get to my goal weight, I think.
Yeah, I agree. That'll help you. You'll get there.
Yeah. You mentioned a couple times too, the carnivore diet.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, I love the carnivore diet, short term. I wrote about it. I wrote a chapter about it in my book, Keto Flex. Carnivore is a great way to heal your gut. When you think about vegetables, plants, I know this might sound crazy to a few people, but plants have toxins in them. They're called plant toxins. They're in the form of oxalates and lectins and phytates. They're called anti-nutrients as well. Why do plants have toxins in them? Well, they have that because they want to survive. Humans and animals, they could defend themselves with their teeth or they're running away or fighting. Plants don't have that luxury. So how do they defend themselves? They created these plant toxins. So when a predator eats them, the predator gets sick and the predator doesn't eat them anymore. So they have plant toxins in them. So when we eat a lot of vegetables for years, every single day, it could be inflammatory to the gut. So carnivore is a diet with just animal fat and protein, eliminating all plants, all fruits and vegetables. It will help reset your gut 30 days, 40 days, and then you start to reintroduce the plants back in. And it's highly anti-inflammatory. It helps with brain function. There's a lot of anecdotal research out there. I did it myself several times. I do it and I get amazing. I feel really good on it because of the primary goal of what it does to heal your gut, especially if you have autoimmune disease. Carnivore could be a great tool for you.
Wow. I've done it for 1 week before, but I never thought of doing it for a whole month. Maybe that's what I should do for my first month of.
I think it'll help. 30 days.
Yeah.
There's 4 different levels depending on how strict you want to do it. But in the book, I talk about the 4 different levels. So I like 30 days of any level being a good protocol.
Well, I need to read that book then, huh? I need to get on that because I never considered doing it for longer because it felt like super restrictive. I like vegetables,
I did
I'm
too.
not one of those
Yeah.
people who's like, oh, vegetables. No, nobody had to talk me into eating vegetables. I liked vegetables. That's not why I was fat. I just ate too much of the other stuff.
Totally.
Yeah, so I never thought of doing it for 30 days, but I think I'm going to try that. I found the week, to be honest, hard to just eat protein and fat was hard.
Yeah, it's kind of limiting, but vary the different proteins. So like chicken and bison and eggs and beef and lamb and shrimp and seafood, like vary the different sources. That makes it more sustainable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I did that. It was funny because I told myself I was going to do the beef and butter for a week,
Yeah.
but that quickly got boring. Beef and
Yeah.
butter. I couldn't do it for a whole week. I had
You're
to
like,
vary
no
the
more beef
protein.
and butter. I'm done with this. Yeah.
I'm gonna just puke.
It's not sustainable. It's very difficult. So there's variations of it. 30 days is a good protocol.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. What do you think happens when people don't get enough sleep?
It'll wipe out their willpower reserves, that's for sure. Sleep is foundational. It's a Swiss Army knife of health. It does everything, so many things for us. You won't get the results you want with keto or fasting or any protocol you're doing without at least 7 hours of quality sleep on a consistent basis. There's numerous studies. You just go on PubMed or Scientific American, type in sleep or lack of sleep and see what it does. I mean, the study, it's clear. If you get poor sleep, which is categorized as less than 7 hours of sleep, you're going to have higher levels of cortisol the next day, which is your stress hormone. What follows cortisol is glucose, so you'll have higher blood sugars without even changing your diet. What also follows glucose is insulin, so you'll have an insulin response from that. And if you're doing keto, when glucose goes up, ketones go down. So keep that in mind. There's also a hormone in the body called ghrelin, which is the hunger hormone. That's increased, so you're hungrier. And then the hormone leptin, which is your satiety hormone, is decreased. So you're going to make poor decisions. You're going to be hungrier and less satisfied when you eat. So talk about mental, emotional stress. That'll definitely wipe out your thought process, your resilience. So sleep is going to be very important to prioritize.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I feel like I can really confirm that from my experience too. Like when I'm not getting enough sleep, not only will my weight loss stop, but I'll actually start gaining weight
Yeah.
even if I don't change what I'm eating because I don't know, something happens to me hormonally and I just pack it on.
That's exactly the case for so many people. The body goes into this storage of fat response, stress response, because
Mhm.
it's a stressor to the body. So yeah, you want to make sure you're improving your sleep and getting that quality sleep. Once you do that, you're more mentally strong. You're going to burn more fat because your body burns fat during sleep. So it'll help break through a weight loss plateau. Your brain detoxifies overnight via the lymphatic system. So sleep is the key for many, many things here.
Yeah, actually, it was a stressful period in my mid 30s when I was going through this horrific divorce that I started having a weight problem. And I was just not sleeping. I was stressed all the time. I was working full time and raising a bunch of kids and yeah, I
Yeah.
packed it on. because thankfully, I didn't have any kind of weight problem when I was younger. And I think that is important in the weight loss journey, because a lot of people I met who always had weight problems had a hard time visualizing any kind of change in that.
Yeah.
So I think it's an advantage that mine didn't start until my mid 30s. But boy, when I'm really good at packing on the fat
Stress.
when I'm stressed, man.
Yeah, chronic stress is such a silent killer. That happens to so many people. And in this day and age, we're dealing with so much stress. So we need to be able to filter that out and master the stress so your body can heal itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I feel like even in this last weight gain that I had, part of it was a stress thing, because I quit my job. I, started doing gig work to support this YouTube channel. And I think it was, partially stress that led to the weight gain. But I also did flex a little too often.
Yeah,
And I
combination of
didn't
both.
Yeah, I didn't move near enough. I live 3 blocks from Lake Merritt, which is a beautiful lake in Oakland. So there's like no excuse. Like I could walk down there any day and have a lovely scenic walk,
No excuse for you.
No excuse. But, I'll be like, oh, I got to edit one more video.
Yeah, yeah. Justify why you shouldn't. We all do that. Yeah.
Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Is there anything else about keto and mental health, or um, intermittent fasting, or anything in your space that you want to share before we start wrapping up?
Yeah, what you do is important, because I also agree that you need to exercise before you exercise. You could do keto perfectly, you could do fasting perfectly, but if you're not doing the mental work, working on that mental six pack, you won't get the results you want. So really become more conscious with those daily thoughts that you think every single day, 60,000 thoughts per day. Typically 90% of them are the same thoughts from yesterday, which are usually negative thoughts that are these learned behaviors. It's crazy. So I call them stinking thinking thoughts. And if your thinking is stinking, your dreams are shrinking. So
I like that.
so change your thoughts, change your life. Like Dr. Wayne Dyer said, when you change the way you look at things, the
I
things
miss
you look at
Wayne
change.
Dyer.
Yeah, me too. What a legend. I listen to him every day, still to this day.
Me too.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I love that, man. Yeah, so that would be my message to just leave with you all, to just get really conscious with the thoughts that you're thinking. And if you have a negative thought, choose a better thought and get really good at doing that. Then everything else that you're doing will upgrade by default. If you change your environment, by the way, it becomes much more feasible. So do an audit on your environment, because you become your environment. Environment is even more important than heredity, meaning your genes. Your environment will turn on genes or turn them off. So if you have people in your life who are not supporting this new lifestyle, it might be time to have a conversation with them. And if they're still not willing to do that to support you, you might want to spend less time with them and find your hopeful tribe of people who are going to actually support you.
Exactly. I didn't even know we had that in common, about the thinking, and Wayne Dyer, and um this last part you brought out about auditing your environment. I really hardcore believe in that. I think um too often we think just because we are blood relation to someone that we have to be in constant contact with them. And that's just not true. That's really not true.
Right.
We get to make choices about who we see and when. And also the thought thing. If you keep practicing changing your thoughts and only thinking things that serve you, it's like a superpower.
Mm-hmm.
If you can do that, you can do anything,
That's
you
right.
know? It's really powerful. Really powerful.
Amen.
So,
I
yeah,
agree.
I think dogs are so great.
Oh, me too. Talk
You
about something
know,
to de-stress, right? Having a dog.
right? For your mental health,
Yeah,
for your physical health, because you got to go out and walk them, you know?
exactly. Otherwise, they'll be pissed.
Yeah. Or they might just piss all over your
Oh,
house.
they'll do a different kind of pissing. Yeah.
But this has been delightful. And I wanted to ask you my usual wrap up the interview question that goes with Hopeful Tribe, which is what gives you hope?
Mm. Well, the interesting thing about faith and fear is that they both demand for you to believe in something you can't see. Why not choose faith, which is also hope?
Mm,
So, my relationship with God gives me hope. And you could substitute that word for universe, mother nature, love. But I have a strong faith, and I always put my energy in faith over fear. Both are things you can't see. So why not choose faith, which is hope? So that's what gives me hope, my faith.
I love it. I love it. That's so beautiful. Mm-mm-mm.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on, Ben. And please check out Ben's new book, Keto Flex, and his channel, which literally saved my life. I'm going to put all those links in the video description. And I hope we'll get to do this again. Maybe we can update after I get to my goal weight.
I would love to celebrate with you. Let's do it. Thank you, Sue. I appreciate you, and I'm grateful for you. And bravo to the work that you're doing with your hopeful tribe here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.